This past weekend, the Nittany Lions closed out their regular season, ending 10-2 as they shut out Michigan State 42-0. This is now the third shutout of the season, with two of them being against Big Ten opponents. With this phenomenal last game, Penn State is now preparing for a New Year's Six bowl game. Although Penn State has faced diverse adversity, including new starting quarterback Drew Aller having to create chemistry with wide receivers and running backs, as well as the loss of their offensive coordinator, Penn State adjusted very quickly and showed up every game. As four teams from the West join the Big Ten, the schedule next season is going to be one we've never seen before. Although this is exciting, what does this mean for Penn State, and will the Nittany Lions be up for this challenge? Welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Jezenia Marrero alongside Lauren Harth and Will Duerksen. So, Will, Penn State's offensive coordinator, Mike Yurcich, was fired during Week 11, and recently the tight end coach and running backs coach have been filling in. What have you seen during the offensive play style, specifically against Michigan State with the new fill-ins?
Well, the biggest takeaway for me comes from Drew Aller. He looked calm, he looked relaxed, the line was giving him plenty of protection, and it showed. And for the plays themselves, we saw a lot more vertical throws against Michigan State, and Aller showed off that arm on that big 60-yard throw to Amari Evans. Also, Keandre Lambert-Smith and Dante Cephas, no catches against Rutgers. They had 4 against Michigan State. So the wide receivers definitely benefited from the change in play calling. And then finally, Nick Singleton had a rejuvenation against Michigan State. Over 100 yards for the first time this season. It's good to see him get back into the swing of things because he was a 5-star when they brought him in out of Shillington, Pennsylvania, the Gatorade National Player of the Year. He played like the National Player of the Year against Michigan State.
I definitely agree with you, Will. Drew Aller had a stellar game, and seeing those big plays, explosive plays we've been waiting all season for, finally showed. And not to mention that they were throwing it more. You weren't running the ball on every first down. Something particularly interesting to me, though, that I liked was the incorporation of both Drew Aller and Bo Prabula. The incorporation of both of them being in on some plays, moving Bo into the games, just that opens the door to so many more play calls. It keeps the defense very aware of what's going on, and I think that really just shows the strength of this offense.
I completely agree with you, Lauren. I definitely saw that Penn State was using both of their quarterbacks, Drew Aller and Bo, and I definitely think that that was awesome because the other team's defense were shaken up and they had to figure out what they're going to do now because of their two different quarterbacks that they're encountering. I also really liked seeing Penn State take the risk during plays when throwing the ball because there are players that can catch it. So last year, Penn State went to the Rose Bowl and defeated the Utah Utes, and they're now going to their 5th New Year's Six bowl. What bowl would you like Penn State to be in, and with what team?
So Penn State is definitely vying for that New Year's Bowl, but so is Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and Missouri. So keeping that all in mind, I think it's really going to come down to which bowl do they end up in. Ideally, I want to see them in the Peach Bowl, and I think a great competitor for them would be Alabama. I think that would lend itself to a really exciting game. I think it could be a high-scoring game with both teams having strong offenses and strong defenses. I mean, we saw Auburn kept it close with them up until the last 30 seconds of the game. So I think that would lend itself to a really exciting game.
Yeah, I think the Peach Bowl is definitely on the table, and it's the most realistic possibility for Penn State. They might play a group of 5 team there, but I'm thinking a little bigger. Why not go to Jerry World and the Cotton Bowl against Oregon? Drew Aller, the young gun, against Bo Nix, the veteran, in the place where it all started for Bo Nix. He made his first collegiate start for Auburn, ironically against Oregon, at that stadium and won. But the Penn State defense would have quite the challenge stopping Oregon's offense. And one other thing to note, too, with Oregon, if they lose to Washington in the Pac-12 title game on Friday, they'd have 2 losses, but I'd imagine they'd still be ranked very high. That'd be quite the matchup for Penn State. And I also think that tomorrow, as we're taping this, tomorrow's CFP committee rankings are going to tell a lot about where we might see Penn State in the postseason because they don't play this weekend, Penn State does, and the teams you mentioned, Lauren, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and Missouri, they don't play as well.
Yeah, I would also like to see Penn State in the Peach Bowl. I think them going for the first time to Atlanta would be great. I also think the Mercedes-Benz Stadium is awesome. But what you said, Will, I think it would be really cool for Penn State to play Oregon in the Penn State to play Oregon in the Cotton Bowl, because they're not going to be playing Oregon next season, and as the whole Pac-12 thing happens. So speaking of the Pac-12, four teams are joining the Big Ten, and Penn State's schedule includes some of these Pac-12 teams. What do you guys think about Penn State's schedule next season?
Well, the most obvious question for Penn State going into next year is, can they beat the great scarlet whale in the Big Ten known as the Ohio State Buckeyes? James Franklin has not beaten Ohio State since Ryan Day has become the Ohio State head coach, and this will be the last time Ohio State comes to Beaver Stadium until 2028. You'd think Franklin would want that. They do play 3 of the former Pac-12 teams. Washington's kind of a wild card. We don't know if Michael Penix Jr. will go to the NFL or not. USC, that's going to be fun because the last time they met, Penn State lost in an epic Rose Bowl, but Caleb Williams may not be there. UCLA, who's going to be the Bruins quarterback next season? We don't know. And also, there are several tough road games, I think, on Penn State's schedule next year. West Virginia quietly won 8 games and is going to a bowl game. And Minnesota, I know the Gophers finished 5-7, but the last time Penn State went to Minnesota in November, they lost in 2019 and were possibly knocked out of the CFP.
No, I definitely agree with everything you have to say, Will. Some of these games are going to be a big test that they're not used to seeing. They haven't faced these West Coast teams on a regular basis. But something big to consider is, how are they going to react when they travel east to play these teams? How are they going to react to a Beaver Stadium environment? This is something they're not faced with. So I think it'll be exciting to see, does Penn State step up to the challenge of these new teams coming in? You do mention, though, Caleb Williams and Michael Penix Jr. Will they be there? It's still yet to be seen, but that's a big wild card in who they will face. So it will lend itself to be exciting games. And you mentioned the road games. I think we saw it this season, Penn State with their slow starts on the road. We saw it at Northwestern. It takes them a minute to get going, and they don't want to get behind too soon. They want to come out strong right from the beginning, because they are, let's face it, they're going to have more bigger games than just Ohio State and Michigan like they've had for the past however many years.
Yeah, I completely agree with you both. You think that Penn State has Michigan off their radar, but they do have Washington, USC, and UCLA. And these 3 teams are high-point scoring games that they're finishing off with. So I definitely think that Penn State is up for the challenge, and can they make it? I have no idea. But I think that Drew Aller has definitely become more comfortable as the regular season went on. He's thrown 23 touchdowns, or he's had 23 touchdowns and with only 1 interception. I think that's something that shouldn't be counted for. The Nittany Lions had a great season with their new starting quarterback, Drew Aller, leaving them ranked 3rd in the Big Ten Conference. Even with the regular season being over, they have some exciting teams to face next season, and of course their bowl game. That's a wrap for this edition of Penn State Sports Night. For Lauren Harth and Will Duerksen, I'm Jezenia Marrero. Thank you for watching and have a great night.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night.
For more content like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a like, and follow our socials down below.
And as always, we are
Penn State Sports Night.